This Shriners Children 500 DFS and Underdog Picks edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's U.S.-based and available in 40 states. Head to Cut.com, that's Kutt.com, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100x in NBA, NHL, college basketball, NASCAR, and more. Sign up today using promo code SGPN to get a 100% deposit match. We're also brought to you by Champs. Run your own March Madness pool and enter Champs free bracket contest for a chance to win $1,000. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/champs to enter today. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month and start making smarter bets today.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
And what is a day without the opportunity to talk racing things? It is, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez, and we are in Phoenix still for the week. We aren't technically in Phoenix.
I was going to say, wait a minute. I just came in from outside. It's not warm enough to be Phoenix.
Actually, that is very true over here, too. It's a little bit on the chilly side, even in California, even as close as we are to Phoenix, but it is definitely not Phoenix weather. However, the racers are over there in Phoenix. They're getting ready to get set for the race this weekend. And of course, we are here to break down the DFS and underdog picks for this slate. Cody, we got a question in the chat right off the jump. Off-season sports card asking, is there a truck race this week? What's the
answer? Sadly, there's not. We hit 80-1 last week on Raja Caruth, and they canceled it this week because they couldn't afford to put it on. No, just kidding. No, trucks have this week off, unfortunately, at Phoenix. Taking a rest. They'll be back next week for Bristol, which is great. Actually, is Xfinity might be off next week.
Well,
maybe
the books,
they're all three there. I can't remember.
The books pretty much wired NASCAR and said, hey, listen, guys, we got killed. Yeah. Can you not have a race next week for the trucks?
Damn it. Yeah, Xfinity is off next week. So it'll be just trucks next week with the Cup Series at Bristol. So yeah, there you go. You got
the
that
first Bristol spring race that's not on the dirt in a very long time.
In quite a few years. So no truck race, unfortunately. But Rod, we're here today with DFS and Underdog. We're gonna be back this evening, later on tonight, with some IndyCar talk. Currently, as of now, as we record this, there's only outrights out. So hopefully between now and then, Bucks, if you're listening, we know you are. Get shit together. Get us some prop bets, please. But either way, we're going to talk IndyCar no matter what, and wrap up our quote-unquote Friday show this evening on Thursday night, because we both have some family obligations tomorrow, and we'll be a little busy. So, join us again later. But for now, we've got DFS and Underdog.
Which is Cody's favorite, Cody Bennett, by the way. It's probably yours, too.
They're all my favorite shows,
yeah.
But Cody Bennett, this is his favorite. Great. Again, love the name. It's great.
Yep, favorite show of the week. Love underdogs and DFS. That's why all that's legal.
Yeah, all that's legal.
That's why we do it.
Yeah, that's part of the problem in a lot of places. I live in Nebraska, and we do have it now where you can go to the casino and place your bets, but you can't use the general sports betting apps that we all love and cherish here. So I feel you there. And underdog is a great way because, again, you're picking higher than lower on the drivers. It's a fantasy game, but it's a good way to get in on the action and have that fantasy skin on there. Cut, that's a great way too. If you can get some people to take the opposite of what you want, that's a good way to get bets on as well in a non-legal betting state. Cut's legal, I think, in 40 states. So get the check. I don't specifically know about Georgia, but I know it's legal in a lot of states that don't have legal betting since it's a peer-to-peer thing. So definitely check that out.
What I'm starting to be encouraged by is the opportunity for folks to get in on betting like action, betting feeling action now as more states are starting to become legal, but there's still states like California where it's not legal. And so I have to do other things in order to get that fix. And Underdog's a great one because, again, it's me playing my own skill and research against Underdog's lines or Underdog's projected finishing total. So, yeah, I'm telling you right now, I love it. That's why we do these shows, is because not everybody has access to legal betting cards. And so if we're here to give you a little bit of an edge and win you a little more money through DFS, through Underdog, then that is what we're here for. Chris checking in saying, what up, Rod and Cody? Finished last in DFS last week, so I can answer any questions. Let me know.
That's an accomplishment these days. We've had quite a few people joining in on the Discord DFS game. If you don't know, we have a weekly DFS game that we play, $5 over on DraftKings. I toss the link for that over in the Discord each week, and we've been getting some pretty decent numbers, which, it's a winner take all deal. So you can hit a nice little thing if you hit that, and we've had different winners I think every week. So and we do it for Trucks and Xfinity too if you're really true DJ and want to get all into it. So that's great. We appreciate you playing, Chris. Last week, first this week. I'm calling it right now. But yeah, and again, like as far as we're talking fantasy today, but they go hand in hand, right? If you like a driver for fantasy, there's probably a way you can find to bet on them. If you're betting on a driver, probably a way you can find to play him in fantasy. So they do translate in a lot of ways when it comes to that.
And we've always said too that if this is the only show that you listen to and you really do want to kind of get more in depth with other drivers, because we tend to try not to give you the same drivers every single time because it tends to get a little dry, especially between betting and DFS. But at the same time, if you want to dig deeper on a driver that we talk about and we say, hey, well, we talked about him in depth in the betting episode. I mean, it's because, we're giving it to you, but from a betting angle, it covers a little bit more than DFS, because DFS, we're kind of dealing with a different level of research here. We're finishing positions, laps led, fast laps. Those are the metrics that we're using to judge each of these drivers by. But from a betting aspect, now we're talking like, bet or a finishing position for sure, track history, all kinds of stuff that kind of backs it up. But again, kind of listen to everything. Hopefully you don't just listen to this one, because we'd love for you to get other information. And maybe there's a driver you didn't think about that you think, oh, hey, Matt, that may be a better edge, because you can play all the ones that we give you, but it's better to have a different card than we have.
Yeah, and you're going to, again, we don't have all the information right now as far as, 50-minute practice this week. That's going to be important to watch and see who's got long run speed. And, we typically have seen guys lead a lot of laps in a single chunk here. You're going to need that guy or two guys that do it. Practice is going to tell us more than normal this week because it's longer. Qualifying positions are going to matter, obviously. Last week you get a guy like Ryan Preece that wrecks in practice early and goes to a backup car, doesn't get a chance to qualify, starts in the back. So, yeah, you're going to want to play him, even though we didn't think he'd be a guy we'd be on going into the weekend. But he's got no downside and nothing but upside, basically. So, yeah, everyone was going to play him, but you had to play him. So it is good to take it all in and have your eye on different guys going into the weekend. Again, you get more info as we go into the weekend as well. Chris wondering if IndyCar is on Underdog. Not yet. We need to get in on Underdog and do. We're gonna have this conversation on tonight's show. So tune back in, because IndyCar gets no fucking respect, Rod. I'm tired of it. I'm sick and tired. I will have a rant tonight about that. So come back and join us on that show, or tomorrow if you're listening on the podcast, or whatever. Just find the IndyCar episode.
If we single-handedly have to lead the charge, which, by the way, we're talking IndyCar, I'll give him a shout out tonight. We'll talk about that tonight. This is obviously the DFS edition.
Don't spoil it yet, Joe.
I won't spoil it.
Jeez. I'm talking about he's spoiling my picks already. Leave those for later. And Old Fashioned Football says I'm angry. You're right, I am angry, because IndyCar deserves respect. Not getting it again. We'll have that conversation later.
We will have that conversation. But I do like Justin chiming in and saying there should be a pre-race before this race of little parade Shriner cars that could be bet on. Oh, DJs only.
I don't know that those little cars would stick to. Well, there's not much banking at Phoenix, so you could.
No,
but yeah, you got to have them out there doing like the little circles in front of the field. That would be great.
I would love that. Absolutely love that. All right. Well, then let's get into that DFS edition of this show. But listen, I want to push the right button. Oh my God. I want to tell you about our Merch Madness contest. 15% off of everything in the merch store with the promo code MADNESS. There are some fantastic merch out there. You can get a Racing Gambling Podcast coffee mug like Cody's got up there. You can get a Racing Gambling Podcast hoodie, which you've seen him wear several times before. I'm telling you right now, just check yourself out. Ask Walter. Walter's the perfect example of the Racing Gambling Podcast merch. So make sure you're getting over there. 15% off now in the merch store with promo code MADNESS. We talked about it just a second ago with Cut. What is Cut? Well, it's a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's U.S.-based and available in 40 states. It's legal because it's peer-to-peer social betting. It's a new and better way to bet. You can bet directly against your friends or other users on not just sports, but pop culture, politics, and anything else that you could think of with a verifiable outcome. Plus, it's tons of fun, and it's got social features that give it the feel of a betting social network. Not just that, but Cut offers the lowest VIG, and it's fully customizable with their odds, so you can create your own bets. That's so much fun. Cut handles the payment side of things, too, so you never have to chase anyone down for money ever again. The social features include group chats, betting leaderboards, head-to-head history, user profiles, fan groups, and so much more. And on top of all of that, you get rewards. You get cash back every single time you bet against your friends or other users. Download Cut today in the App Store or head over to cut.com. That's KUTT.com and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. Let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. We're about to give you all of our favorite Underdog Fantasy plays, so hang tight. As we've said before, it's just as simple as picking better than or worse than the finishing positions that Underdog has assigned. You do that, you pick enough of them, you watch that multiplier increase, and you just watch the wallet when you're done for all of the winnings that you're essentially going to take home as a result. There's other sports in there too, if that's your thing. There's football, there's basketball, there's hockey, there's all kinds of things that you can build up on for Underdog. And keep an eye out for those spicy little chiles. They can result in 100x on your entry. So make sure you do that. And again, we're going to give you some of our favorite plays, but you look and see what you like as well. Sign up today with the promo code SGP and get your first deposit doubled up to $100, as well as an instant pick'em special. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. And don't forget to register with our promo code RACE SGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100, as well as that instant pick'em special. Must be 18 or older and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ncpgambling.org. Cody, we are again at the Phoenix Raceway for this Shriners Children's 500. Contrary to labeling, it is not a 500-mile race, nor is it even a 500-lap race. This is more 500 kilometers. So it is 312 laps around.
Did you see the comment we got on YouTube earlier today? Someone was listening to the Cup Series Picks show earlier today and commented that they were glad that you broke down why it was called the 500-mile race and what the actual distance was and everything, because nobody else that they listened to broke it down. So
really?
Shout out to you for doing that, because you always do that. And I thought that was good to highlight that. I don't have that person's name in front of me, but appreciate you listening. And yeah, nice to highlight that they appreciated you breaking down why it's called 500, even though it's not 500.
Well, I appreciate
Well, it
that.
is 500, but it's 500 kilometers.
I feel all warm. And see, now listen, this is why I love this show, because to me, this is so much better than anything else I could be doing in this life for a living. So you guys make this all worth it. But again, 312 miles around this mile paved track for 312-mile race. 1 lap equals 1 mile. So again, laps led, sort of a thing in this one. And like Cody said, we're going to see a lot of laps led in this instance, because this is not a race where, last season in the championship race, Ross Chastain, 157 laps led on this track, 201 led by Kyle Larson in the spring race last year. Even going back further, 187 for Joey Logano, 109 for Ryan Blaney in the Cup Series Championship of 2022. And then just to kind of put a pin in that thought, 143 by Ryan Blaney, 101 by Chase Briscoe. If you miss on a lap leader in a cash game, you're jockeying for a very low position in that contest.
Yeah, it's going to be very important to nail the one or two guys who dominate this race, because there's a solid chance, much like last week, we got it with Larson where he led a ton of laps. You're going to have that guy, who that guy is. Again, we'll see where people are starting. We'll see how practice goes to know exactly which one you're going to want to lean towards. But you're going to have that guy in your lineup, or it's going to be pretty tough for you.
Indeed. Unfortunately, the guy that we would basically have already put in all of our dock at this point is not. He's in the booth now. He can't lead any laps. He can't finish in the top 10.
The Kevin Harvick free square is gone. Trial of a life too in the comments. We are back on Facebook today. I don't know why we couldn't stream there yesterday, but I guess it works today, so that's good. Cut is pretty genius. Wish would have thought of that. It really, Cut is great. It's awesome, and they are willing to add anything than a verifiable outcome when it comes to the racing too. I've got an inside line right to one of the guys that created the thing. So hit me up over in the Discord. I know Joe Zeppelog we were having a conversation before the show here. We're going to get some Cut head-to-heads going. If you hear a take I have during the week or something, and you're like, oh, you're wrong, I want to take the opposite end of it, hit me up. I will go with you on Cut, and we can cut bet that. So hit me up. We'll get them to add it, and we can put it out there, because you can take a specific person's other bets. You can specifically take mine, or whatever the case may be. So we can we'll definitely do that if you hit me up.
Yep, you can cut that up. So, all right. So as we always do, week to week, we will give you our high price drivers, our mid tier drivers, and our low price driver suggestions for your card. Again, we'll give you 6 of them. You can fit them all in a lineup. More often than not, you can fit them all in a lineup. But we're just kind of giving you names to keep your eye out for. Make sure that when you build your final DFS roster, look at the starting positions, because a lot of these we're going to give you that we think will be good regardless of starting positions, but some drivers' positions get better afterwards and some don't. So always keep an eye on that. So Cody, with that, let's go ahead and tee up our high price drivers for this slate.
Yeah, a little behind the scenes. We neither of us had time to create a document or actually make our picks ahead of time, so we don't know what our picks are going to be. We're just doing it as we go along. But I want to say, so Larson is at the top of the board, 11.5, Blaney 11.2, and Byron 11,000. Those are the 3 expensive guys. They're very pricey this week. I'm not going to give one of those guys out. We gave thoughts on those guys in the betting episode. Those are 3 guys that are likely going to be extremely fucking good here this week. There's a high percentage of a chance those are going to be guys that are some of those lap leaders that dominate this race. So got to keep an eye on practice, got to keep an eye on qualifying. Get in the Discord. We'll give you our thoughts afterwards as well. But you're likely going to have to, now I would say like a 95% chance you're going to have one of those guys, if not 2 of those guys in your lineup. So keep an eye on things and pay attention to that goes. But I'm going to go down a little bit to $9,000 and give you Ross Chastain as a little bit. He's a higher priced guy that is on the cheaper end of things. The guy that I want to highlight, we didn't bring Ross up on the betting show really, and I didn't like that because he's been really fucking good here. Just couldn't find a way that I like to get in on him. Like you mentioned before, in the championship race in the fall, which he wasn't even in the championship for, but he dominated this race, led 157 laps, got the win. So obviously we know he can do that. He would have needed to have been in your lineup that day. You go back to the spring of last year, Rod, 24th place finish, but a massive, huge, big asterisk on that. If you remember, that's the race at the beginning of the season when him and Denny were still kind of feuding. At the end of the race, Denny said, fuck it, and basically just drove Ross up into the wall and cost them both a ton of spots at the end of the race because he wanted to prove a point. They sort of buried the axe after that, and that seemed to have fixed things between them, at least for now. So, yes, 24th, not indicative of how he ran. He was top 10 in both stages with a 7th and a 9th place. And you know, he led 1 lap, but he started 6th. He was running up there throughout the day. So asterisk on the finish there. The other 2 next gen starts here with the Trackhouse car, a 3rd place and a 2nd place. Didn't lead any laps in those. So, you know, that's going to hurt a little bit. But even at this price at 9,000, he doesn't necessarily have to lead you laps. If he gets a good, strong finish and he can get you some fastest laps, I think he'll have the ability to lead laps. Rod, if he didn't have a speeding penalty 3 for 3 this year in all 3 races, I mean, imagine what he could have done last week. We saw how good he was, how strong he was. First, he had to go to the back to fix the wrap, which should not be a penalty because you're literally fixing the wrap on the car. I don't understand that. But and then he has the penalty and still comes back and finishes. I believe he was in the top 10 last week. So Ross Chastain, a guy I want to highlight, $9,000, while at the same time mentioning, the Larson, Blaney, Byron, they're going to be the chalk guys, but they're definitely going to be guys that you're going to have to get in on.
Yeah, and really, honestly, I think Larson may be the most heavily played driver on the entire slate. So, I mean, this is why we tell you too, we just never suggest that you take one lineup and run just one lineup. Play multiple ones.
There is I said in the Discord last week at the beginning of the show, because I was going back and forth leading up to the race. Did I want to play Larson? Did I want to play Byron Rod? I couldn't. I had one in. I was settled on Larson. They come out of the gate, and Byron just looked like the fastest fucking guy. And I go, I've always picked wrong between these two guys. I said it in the Discord, and I was like, can't believe I played Larson over Byron. Then obviously the trash bag incident happens, and Larson leads 300 laps. So it worked out for me, but it was scary at first. So it's not a guaranteed thing that Larson's going to lead all those laps. Betting against him could be tough too. But yeah, so just keep an eye on it throughout the weekend, of course.
Most definitely. All right, I'll give you my high price driver, but first I want to tell you about the Champs March Madness bracket, man. Champs is hosting a free March Madness bracket contest. You got a chance to win $1,000. Plus, if you host your own March Madness pool on Champs, you're going to get an extra entry for free into the bracket contest. Tiebreakers are determined by who enters first, so make sure to register now so you don't miss out. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/champs. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/champs. So many free contests. If you're not getting in on these, folks, you are missing out. So head over there now, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/champs. Win bigger by betting smarter this NBA season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NBA and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bets revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark. Join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. So I'll climb up the ladder board a little bit for my high price driver, and I'm going to take Joey Logano at $9,500. It's been a sort of, I know it's the hardest guy to predict. I get it. I'm 1000% with you. I know how we feel about this, but for a DFS play this week, I feel like I'm going to take good Joey, right? So there's bad Joey and there's good Joey. I'm going to bank on good
How many
Joey.
times have you said that this year, Rod?
Probably more times than he's pulled.
Oh, it's even your Joey. It'll be fine.
Well, one of these times it's going to be right. So I'll just keep saying it until it's right at this point. But Joey Logano on this particular track, though, listen, if you just look at overall track stats, right? He is the third highest driver in terms of laps led around this track. It goes Kevin Harvick with an astonishing 1,722 laps led. Kyle Busch at 1,190, but we're off
12 races of full races of lead
being ahead. It's insane. And then there's Joey Logano at 908 laps. So he knows how to get around. Now 187 of those came in that fall race in 2022 when he won his championship, right? That was the time he won. He's got 2 other wins, one of them in the spring. But to me, I don't know. I don't know what it is about Joey Logano. I feel like he should be running better, and I'm going to keep rolling him out until he starts running better. Last season, not the best for him on this track at all. He had an 18th place finish in the fall and an 11th place finish in the spring, started 16th and 17th in those races respectively. But Joey's consistently been one of those guys where when you count him out, is when he starts to do better for you. That's really the only thing you can kind of hang your hat on is if you keep rolling them out, at one point you're going to be right. And hopefully this is going to be the one in which you're right. because it's tiresome to be wrong on Joey Logano each and every time. And honestly, the 22 car, we talked about the Fords a little bit, just how they are a little bit behind the Chevys and the Toyotas right now. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Not on the short tracks though, Rod. I mean, as much as they were behind in the past on the short tracks, they were not behind. So Joey Logano again, I think is the hardest guy in the entire Cup Series to peg how he's going to do. But I will say some positives towards playing Joey. You're probably going to be different than everyone else. If you pull him up on DraftKings and his fantasy points per race says 12.2, that's going to turn off a lot of people right there. He's been qualifying really well. He's started on the front row in all 3 races. Granted, maybe there was a webbed glove for 2 of those, but last week, no webbed glove, and he still did it. So there is that. So he might start well. We've seen him do it before here in the fall. Now, in that race, Ryan Blaney had the better car, but played the good teammate role and played defense in second place, basically. But as good as Ryan Blaney has been here and as good as Joey's been as well, there is that possibility he could be the guy. I don't know that I want to trust him in a cash game necessarily, but looking for that GPP play that's different and a guy that has the ceiling and the upside that Joey has, I think he could be a solid play. And I think, a lot of people might have played him last week with him starting first and he drops back. He led 2 laps and then he was out of it and didn't really score you much. So I think there's a possibility that he's kind of rubbed some people wrong in that way. And he has the potential to pay off on the type of track where Fords have been a lot stronger on the short tracks. In general, Penske's been pretty good here the last couple of years, and Joey's got a win just 2 seasons ago. So I don't think that it is definitely not a bad play by any means.
Well, thank you for that vote of confidence on Joey Logano, even though you really have trouble giving me Joey Logano half the time, but I'll take it. All right.
It's just because I don't know when. I just don't know when, Rod. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not, and I'm always on the wrong side of it.
It's funny because I picture Joey Logano standing there. That Scooby-Doo meme where Fred's pulling off the mask and it reveals somebody else. It's like Joey pulling off a mask of the villain. It's just Joey Logano. Like it's literally just his face back again. You're like, oh wow, that's it. All right, dumb pop culture reference done. Cody, who are we moving on to for our mid-price drivers?
There's a lot of guys in this mid-price range that I like. A lot of guys we could highlight. If you want to go towards the higher end of things, there's Tyler Reddick at 8,500. Obviously, I talked him up on the betting episode. So if you like that, go back and listen. Gibbs is hanging out at 8,000. I like him. We talked about him on the betting episode. Briscoe at 7,800. A lot of guys in this range I like. But, Rod, a guy I want to highlight, Austin Dillon, the unlikely hero this week. He's only 6,800. So borderline could be a low-tier guy even this week. But Austin Dillon, he's coming off of a very solid run last week at Las Vegas. He ended up in 16th place. Not a bad race at all. He was 6,800 last week at Vegas, 30.5 points. He started 19th, finished 16th. Nothing impressive there, but 30.5 points, a nice solid week for you. He's kind of a guy that seems to be very streaky. And so I think if he's coming off of a good finish, now it's a 1-race sample size really, because we're not going to look at the super speedways because they're super speedways. But if he is getting into that where he is going to be solid, you look back and he hasn't been half bad here at all. 12th place finish in the fall. He was 16th last spring, 13th the fall before, 21st in the first next-gen race here. And even looking back towards the last car, 15th, 17th, 18th, had an 8th place finish, a 9th place finish. Like, he's had some pretty solid runs here in the past. He's been decent enough in the new car. Again, a guy that's probably not going to attract a lot of people's eyes. Again, is that fantasy points per race. I think a lot of people will look at that and they'll be like, oh, he's not scoring very many. And it scares them off as far as the general public goes, and that's coming off of even a decent week last week. Still says only 13.8, but Austin Dillon, a guy that I want to highlight a little bit this week because I think he could be a sneaky guy. Let's see where he qualifies. If he's in the top 10, probably going to be a little harder for him to pay off for you. Although it's not that he couldn't, but if he's kind of in that 15 to 20 range, I think he'll finish in that range, maybe a little bit better. Might be pushing on a top 10 for you and be a good option in that middle range. So Austin Dillon, 6,800.
Unlikely hero Indeed. I don't know. I can't follow you on that one. There's just, I have no faith in Austin Dillon. Unfortunately,
That play was for you, JDK. You know what's up.
JDK is like, he's a rejoicing over that one for sure. A couple of things in the chat here real quick. Nick Fortune saying, afternoon, boys. Afternoon, Nick. Joe talking about rain in Phoenix. I don't know that they even know what that is.
Snowed last time they were at Auto Club, Rod, so don't put it past them.
That's true. Well, it is.
I think we have wet weather package this week too if we want it.
I think we do, but I don't know that I'd want it. But and then Rye Cape checking in. What's up, good fellas?
How's it going?
Rye, good to see you. All right. So for my mid-tier driver, I was waffling back and forth between two SHR boys, and I think I'm going to land on Josh Berry. And I know that I should probably take and I saw that up here. Somebody said Josh Berry. Yep. Joe, talk about Josh Berry. Joe, I'm with you. I was gonna, like I said, take Priest. But I don't know what it is about Josh Berry's potential for DFS goodness in this. In 2 of his 3 races that he's been in, he's actually done very well for us. 24 points. And I say very well, that's based on the price, right? So you're getting 4 times what you paid for him in Daytona, which was, one of the big races for him there. And then 30 points for you on a $6,100 salary in the last race in Vegas. Not bad. I mean, not bad at all, considering 30 points on a $6,000 salary is kind of decent. So he's shown up pretty good so far this season. And Cody, and in the only race that he's ever been in on this track, he finished in 10th place when he drove in the 9 car. Now, of course, that was strategy, but that's not to say strategy can't play a part in this race either. But I will also say that for that 9 car, you remember what Chase Elliott had done in that beforehand. It wasn't looking all that great. And he wasn't necessarily driving at the best either at that time. So we talked about how impressive it could be. He goes out, turns a 10th place finish. That was impressive for him because he actually had that was the race where he jumped in kind of cold, right? Where he was like, well, guess what? You're jumping in the 9 car and you're going to take over for Chase Elliott.
Vegas was the first one where he jumped in. So I think this would have been
his first full race in the 9 car.
His first full race. But still, I mean, only a week of, knowing that he's going to be in that car and only having, that one start in the 9 previous week.
Yeah.
Still impressive.
It was definitely impressive. And so now he's got a couple of races under his belt up in the Cup Series, a little more relaxed. We're 4 races into a crazy season. And so to me, like I said, I'll take a chance on this. I know it's not the most sexiest of salaries. I know that DraftKings is kind of covering themselves with how popular they're probably end up being at $7,200. But I think there's decent value in there. And you look at what he's done in the Xfinity Series in this as well. 3rd place finish, 8th place finish, 6th place finish in the last 4 races. 3 out of the last 4 races, top 10s, 1 top 5. I'll take a chance on him.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. And he is a late model guy. That's what you look for when you come to these short flats. SHR, I talked about it with Briscoe in the betting episode. They're really good at this type of track. That 4 car, Rod has 19 top 10 finishes in a row here. Now, that was with Kevin Harvick, so let's not give too much of that to Barry. Joe's epilogue says, best driver in the SHR stable and best car. Okay, the brake is on the left. Let's maybe put that a little bit.
It's not a high bar, though.
It is a low bar, but I don't know that he's the best driver yet. Maybe at some point he will be. And he says DGR. I'm guessing that means Dale Jr. agrees with you because we know that Jr. obviously a big fan. I don't know. My Barry love is just these guys that get overhyped coming into seasons, Rod, and then I get on the opposite side of them and I can't find my way back. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes this week. But I do like the Ford angle. I like the SHR angle. I like the late model guy angle. So all those things are good. Jumping over to the low salary guys, Rod, save you some money. I'm going to go with Carson Hocevar, $6,000. Love some Carson Hocevar. You go back to last week, he started in 14th. He finished in 15th. Nice solid day for you for DFS. At only 5,800, they only bumped him up to 6,000. He battled some adversity. I can't remember what they had. He tweeted out after the race. They had a couple of issues that TV didn't cover, and they fought through it. And he had a strong day. 14th, 15th place in a Spire car, in the second Spire car that traditionally has been absolutely horrible. And Carson has really shown us some stuff. So you come back to the fall here when he was filling in the 42 car. And he ended up in 19th place that day. Again, a solid run for a young truck driver, not a lot of Cup Series experience, made a couple of starts, but he was impressive. He had an 11th place finish at Bristol, which short track, again, not super comparable to this, but I think it's notable, at least in that 42 car as well. Also, at Worldwide Technologies Gateway, which we haven't talked probably as much this week as we should have about that, another pretty comparable track. If you remember, Corey LaJoie filled in. That was the race Chase Elliott was suspended. Corey LaJoie filled in the 9 car, and Hocevar filled in the 7 car. He was running in like 13th or 14th place, a very impressive run. The brake rotor gave out. He smacked the wall and ended up finishing last. But again, result not indicative of how he was running. Hocevar seems to be a guy that really has it. And already I'm starting to see, again, it's early in the season and we've only had one non-super speedway race, but I've seen enough from him at the end of last season and early this season, stuff that I like. He could be a dog for this rookie of the year going after, to think a Spire car could compete with an SHR car. Sorry, Josh Berry, but it's very possible, I think. So I love playing Carson Hocevar this week at 6,000. I think he's got a pretty high upside for being one of these lower tier guys, especially. So, he's at 6,000 and you kind of look under him. There's some other guys, Zane Smith, I would consider playing, but then, Voldemort, although he might not be a horrible play, but Burton, absolutely not. Haley, you probably don't want. Kraus and Gralla, just take them completely off your board. You don't want to dip down to those guys, in my opinion. So I think that Hocevar is kind of the lowest end you want to get to if you're trying to squeeze in both a Larson and a Blaney or a Larson and a Byron or whatever combination of those two guys. I think Hocevar is a good savings for you with pretty high upside and a guy that's shown he could do pretty decent in this Cup Series car.
All right. Well, then I was going to say Derek Kraus because I was going to punt on that. He did get you 20 points. He didn't get you negative points.
Make the case then, Rod. You can okay. Make, just because I said don't make the case doesn't mean you can't make the case.
You're kind of right, because even when you look at his truck series, you're not asking for him to be in the top 15. No. You're literally just saying, and look, they made a strategy call that put him out in front of the pack for 2 laps last week. And granted, it backfired on them all great, but that 16 car is capable of being a top 20 car, which is kind of what you're wanting out of a guy at his price line. So for me, this is not more of what has Derek Kraus done for us, because my only other thing would be to maybe suggest Noah Gragson, but then we're like really going full on into this SHR world, and I don't know that I want to put all of my eggs in SHR's basket. So I would just say Noah Gragson's $6,600. He's a very intriguing play, but I feel like this is a punt that is not going to lose you too much with Derek Kraus, because at $5,100, he's just got to have a pulse and finish somewhere in the top 25, which is, I think that 16 car is capable of finishing somewhere in the top 25. Probably won't qualify very well. Will Derek Kraus? He started 33rd last week in Vegas.
That's probably the most key thing to playing him. If he started bad like that and there's not that floor there, or the floor is not very low, then that's probably when you can look at him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're getting 20 points out of a $5,000 salary, where, like you were saying, there's no way Kaz Gralla is going to get you that return. Justin Haley's probably not. Harrison Burton, definitely not. Voldemort, nope. Zane Smith, possibly. But
I almost put Zane's. I didn't want to give him out 2 weeks in a row, but he's a guy to keep your eye on for sure. Bad luck early last week hitting the wall and breaking the toe link. But I see, this is why we do this show, Rod, because I wouldn't have even considered Kraus before. Now that you brought it up, he did get you 20 points last week. So if he's starting 33rd, 34th again, and you're trying to squeeze in Larson and Byron and Chastain, and you want to grab a Reddick too. You're going to need to punt on someone. He might not be that bad of a punt place. So that's why we do this. See, you talked me into him, or close enough that I'll consider him.
My bad. I'm sorry, Cody. Cody's going to come back at me.
Come back after you if it doesn't work out for me. So don't worry about it.
I fully expect it. All right. Well, Cody, go over your drivers real quick. We'll do it a little differently because I didn't.
I did keep track of all of them, so I can just recap everyone.
Recap
if you'd like. So get out your pen and paper. here's the DFS guys that we suggested you keep an eye on at least. I started off with Ross Chastain, $9,000. Rod went over to Joseph Logano, $9,500. I came back with, who did I come back with, Rod? That's a good question. These are all, why does it put them out of order like this? Austin Dillon, $6,800, who I came back with. Rod then suggested Josh Berry at 72. Obviously, Rod's the big spender out of the group here, if you've noticed the trend. But in the low section, I spend more with Carson Hocevar at 6,000 and Rod with Derek Kraus, 5,100. Look, if these six guys we gave you $64,000, or not 64,000, that'd be a lot. $6,400 still to play with in your DFS lineup. So again, a lot of these are good options to save some money to help you get to the Larsons and the Blaney's and the Byrons, because again, you're almost certainly going to need at least one of those guys, potentially two of them. So keep up on the practice this week and get in the Discord. We'll be there. We're always there to answer the questions, and tag us if you're okay. What do you think about this? Who should I play between these two guys? We'll give you those answers, even though we're playing against you in that cash lineup. We'll still do it anyways.
I mean, listen, this is all for fun for us, anyways.
Exactly.
I mean, would we like to win? Yeah, but
but we're here to help you win, and that's our goal. So, Rod, should we head over to the underdog section?
I feel like we should head over to the underdog section. Let's do that.
Let's do that. I'm going to start off Tyler Reddick, better than 9.0. Look, just go back and listen to the betting episode all over Tyler Reddick this week. Being disrespected, he's 18-1 to win this race. He's been so good here in the spring, Rod. 2 spring races in this next gen car. Third place. He's done good both times. Both the fall races have been rough, 22nd and 23rd. Again, he was eliminated at that point. Maybe he's looking towards vacation, whatever the case may be. He ran 6th place at New Hampshire last year, 3rd place at North Wilkesboro, 2nd place last week, just a couple of laps short of catching and passing Larson. He's got that fire lit in him this week. Maybe Michael Jordan will be down there in the desert ready to celebrate a win. I got to see I don't know what car Reddick is driving this week, but he's got a lot of beautiful cars, and usually it ends up being a beautiful car. So love Tyler Reddick finishing better than 9.0 on underdog this week.
I'm telling you, this is a fantastic finishing position to pick better or worse than. So I love it. I love the better than on Tyler Reddick. I just like you, I'm really high on Tyler Reddick this week especially. So I'm going to have fun watching this one hit for us. All right. Well, I am normally the guy that takes better than. Today I'm taking worse than, and I'm taking Denny Hamlin as his finishing position is set at 6. I'm taking worse than on Denny Hamlin, 6. His average finish on this track is actually 10.8. His average start is 9.5. I mean, when you think Denny Hamlin, you're like, oh yeah, fantastic, right? Well, not really, because he's only led laps in 3 out of his last 10 or 11 races here. So he hasn't even been in front that much at all. In his last 3 races, he's had no finish. Actually, in his last 4 races, he's had no finish better than 6th place. A 13th in the spring of 2022, 8th in the fall, 23rd in the spring, 8th in the fall. So his better races are in the fall. So if you're asking him to finish well in the spring, well, the answer to that is no. And 6th place or better is not where Denny Hamlin is going to end up when this race is over. I mean, he's probably going to get a top 10. Okay. But I think really 6th place and a top 5 is not really a reasonable request out of Denny Hamlin this week. So give me worse than 6th place for Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, hard to argue with this one. We talked about this in the betting episode. I brought it up again in the Xfinity when I was kind of comparing Justin Allgaier to it. Just starts off slower in the season. Not been as good in these spring races. Kind of the opposite of his driver, Tyler Reddick, where Reddick's been better in the spring, worse in the fall. Denny's been the opposite, where he's better in the fall, worse in the spring. A little bit of a slow starter for the old man. So I do like playing the worse than on that one. Rod, one I like the better than on, Ryan Blaney, 5.0. We've got 4 races here in the next gen car. Rod, Ryan Blaney has finishes of second, and 4th. So he is 4 for 4 on finishing better than. One of those second places, another asterisk next to it, should have been a 1st place. But again, like I said earlier, played the good teammate to Joey Logano, had the much faster and better car that day, but held on to 2nd place to play defense, allow Joey to win that championship. But this has just been Ryan Blaney's place, the champion. He won the championship here in the fall, getting that second place finish. Didn't even need to win the race. And they've got him set at 5.0 here. 4 for 4. He's 100% at hitting this in the next gen car. And he's actually been really good here prior to the next gen car as well. So, he's got a 4th place, a 10th, a 6th, a couple of 3rd places previously in the old car as well. So, much like a Kevin Harvick, he's been very solid and strong here. And he's 4 for 4 in the next gen car. The Fords, again, this is their type of racing, their type of track that they're typically pretty good at. So love some Ryan Blaney this weekend, and I like his better than 5.0.
Yeah, Ryan Blaney, definitely somebody who we are all over. The community's all on Ryan Blaney, and it's for good reason, obviously. You just batted off all the numbers, so good pick on that. All right, I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski. Hate to do this, but I'm going to take worse on him as well. His is set at 10.5. I know that you want to imagine a world in which Brad Keselowski finishes inside of the top 10 in any race, right? It's good for the sport. It's good for the world. However, in his last 4 races, he has not done so. 23rd, 35th, 18th, 15th, all of that since he moved into the 6 car. Now, before that, he was lights out, right? 4th place, 2nd place, 11th, 10th, 9th, but 2nd. Like, he had a pretty good string of runs here in Phoenix in the 2 car, but he's not in the 2 car anymore. He's in the 6 car. And since he's been in that 6 car, he has not had a finish better than 15th place. I know that we talk about Fords being good on short flats. I know that we talk about the RFK cars, that they finish really close to each other and they do very well with each other. But for whatever reason, this particular track is not his favorite. You have to go all the way down. He ranks 21st as far as average finishing is concerned since 2021. 17.5 average finish for Brad Keselowski on this track since the February of 2021 race. Unbelievably not the best at this track for Brad Keselowski. So I don't see a top 10 in his future this week, and I'm definitely going to take the worst then on his 10.5 finishing position.
Yeah, hard to argue too much with that one, Rod. Struggling a little bit trying to figure out the next one. I really wanted to. They don't have William Byron on here yet, so keep an eye out for that. I'm probably going to lean towards Byron's better than. Instead, I'm going to go to Kyle Larson, better than 4.5. It's a little bit chalky, obviously. He's the big favorite in this, but Rod, if he's the big favorite and he's going to get you a good finish, then this one will hit for you. So we're going to go with that. Kyle Larson, better than 4.5 finishing position. Look, the last 2 times we've been here, he led 201 laps in the spring last year. 4th place finish. In the fall here, he was 3rd place, real close to getting that 2nd championship, just behind Ryan Blaney, of course. Prior to that, the first 2 starts here in the next gen car had an engine issue early in the 2022 spring race, so a bad finish. Was 9th place here in the fall, but they seem to have figured things out since then with, look how good Hendrick was here in both the races last year with both Larson and with Byron. Larson, again, he's always a little bit scary to bet on or to take these types of finishes because it seems like they're wins or he has some big problem and something happens to him. But if he's going to be in this race, if he doesn't have the generic racing issues that can happen, I think that Larson is going to be better than 4.5. So I'll take Kyle Larson better than 4.5 over an underdog here.
So at what point, I mean, it just becomes almost automatic. We talk about Kyle Larson. It's really that much of he's going to be good. And you're going to be right more times than you're wrong if you continue to put money on him any way, shape, or form. So can't argue with you on that one. All right, I'll close up with Ross Chastain. His finishing position is set at 6. We talked about how Ross Chastain just completely dominated the fall race last year. And look, that's fresh in his memory, right? I mean, Ross Chastain is one of those drivers who we talked about, especially in the middle of last season where he got in trouble. He maybe not be as fast as he used to be. He may be kind of playing it safe. And then he goes out and he completely obliterates the field at Phoenix. So for me, that's the kind of mentality, that's kind of Ross Chastain that we see at these kind of tracks, right? And we saw actually last week in Vegas where that car was not necessarily all that good for most of the race, but he still managed to find his way to the front of the pack at the end, right? And be jockeying for a good finishing position. That was strategy. that was Ross being patient, which you very rarely see Ross picking his spots, right? And this is the maturity level that we're seeing out of Ross Chastain, which I think he's going to carry over into a race, like I said, that he completely dominated. You don't forget that. You don't go to bed at night and forget how to dominate at a track like Phoenix. So, and the fact that his finishing position is set at 6, I foresee a Ross Chastain top 5 finish in this race. Therefore, this number is good. I will actually take the better than in this instance for Ross Chastain.
Yeah, I like it. Again, 3 of 4 he's finished better than. With that asterisk, I feel like he was top 5 even maybe when Denny, maybe they weren't inside the top 5 when Denny rode him up last spring and didn't get the result, but he's been strong here in all the races. So Rod, get out your pen and paper. I'll recap these ones for you as well. I started off Tyler Reddick better than 9.0, which happens when you win the race. That you will be better than 9.0. So keep that in mind. Rod with Denny Hamlin, continuing the fade Denny Hamlin theme for this week. Worse than 6.0. I went to the champion, Ryan Blaney, better than 5.0. Rod, again, Rod's, look, I do think playing worse than, I think you've got to work in a couple of worse thans every time. As the more I've played underdog here, you've got to hit a couple of these because you can't just go with 5 straight guys to finish better. It's a lot harder to do it that way. Got to hit a couple of worse thans. So I like you pointing these out. Keselowski, worse than 5 or 10.5 was yours. I had Kyle Larson better than 4.5. You had Ross Chastain better than 6.0. Those are our underdog plays for the week. Again, use that promo code RACESGPN to sign up on Underdog. Dude, Underdog has, not IndyCar yet, but just about every other sport you could want, Rod. Just looking through the library here, like women's college basketball, MMA, esports, FIFA, soccer, tennis, and then of course you got NBA and NHL and NFL when that's around. Cricket. Yes, cricket is on here. PWHL. I don't even know what that is, but they have it.
That's the women's hockey.
There you go. They had the combine. There was 40 times faster slowers than. There's college basketball with March Madness ramping up. Little bit of everything. So get over there. Use the promo code RACESGPN. Send us a screenshot if you sign up using that. And might hook you up with something too, because hitting the Underdog signups hard again this month. So appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening. Good luck with your fantasy stuff this week.
Yeah, we definitely would love you to go ahead and sign up with Underdog if you haven't already, because I guarantee you right now, if we are the winning show at the end of the month, and so right now, I'm telling you right now, everybody needs to just go up and do it, because if you're the winning show, then we'll have a nice little party and we'll figure out how to reward you guys for being staunch listeners and setting us up like that. What they need to add though on Underdog, if you're listening, give me some Australian rules football. Season kicked off today, baby.
IndyCar first, and then Australian rules football. But yes, please go over and sign up. It's 100% deposit match up to $100. You don't have to deposit $100 though, Rod. If you want to start with $10, I think 10 is the minimum deposit. Throw 10 in there, you get a free 10. Play 4 different $5 lineups, whatever. See if it turns into money. If it doesn't, fine. It doesn't, and you don't want to play, you don't have to. But sign up, use that code. It helps us out a ton. You're going to have fun. You're going to like it. It's another way to get in on NASCAR fantasy, and it's a little different. Again, with the DraftKings stuff, you're playing against a big, a group of other people. You have to figure out the fantasy points, the place differential, all this. This is just straight up finishing results. Xfinity's in there. We might touch on that a little bit tonight on the IndyCar show too. They have trucks every week. F1 stuff will be on there as well. And then all those other sports. So it's a great thing. Sign up, help us out, help yourself out. Have a good time.
Indeed. All right, Cody. Well, again, like you said, we'll be back later on tonight to talk IndyCar and maybe a little bit of Underdog Xfinity as well. So in the meantime, as we leave them with this episode, and of course, if you're listening on the traditional podcast form, you don't even know the difference. So just happy to be along for the ride. So, all right, let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Yep. Follow me over on the X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my work over there. Make sure you subscribe to that YouTube channel so you can get those alerts when we do go live. And we'll see you again this evening for some IndyCar talk.
Indeed. I'm on X at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, Sportsbook Review, got the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix article up for them already. And then, of course, check out the Back Road tonight. Seth and Elliott hanging it down for you. As I attend to my family as well. But we'll be back tonight later. Keep an eye on that bell, and we'll see you then. Until then, let's go racing and let it ride.